Oh, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for being here with the community, with eXp Realty, greatest brokerage on earth. And we are so excited about today's content because we're talking about buyers. We're talking about how to really have the next level conversations, and especially in the wake of changes that are happening in our industry. How do we handle all this? How do we move forward? And one thing that we wanted to do is continue to bring in great top producing agents who have been doing this for years, who understand the industry and understand what comes next and how to work within our new reality. And so we just know the bottom line is you have to be able to adapt and respond to changes in the market. And ultimately, if you can't, guess what? You're going to get left out in the dust. So for anybody who's not familiar, recently, there's been some changes coming through from NAR. And one of the things that we ran into was the fact that they are now going to be requiring, sounds like hasn't gone through, but it looks like they're going to be requiring us to be bringing our buyers a buyer agency agreement in order to be able to work with them at all. And that's a really significant change to our industry. Ultimately, this hasn't happened previously. It was always a possibility, guys. We've always had the document, but a lot of people just were choosing not to use it. But this is a big deal because bringing this buyer agency component in is not a huge deal, guys. We're going to handle it. Everybody's going to get through it, especially if you're here with us today. Joe, I see that you're unmuted. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, there we can see you and hear you. Hallelujah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Yates, everyone. Woo! Yeah, he's coming to us from Mars today, so that's part of what the connection challenge is.
Okay, you can't hear me very well, though, right?
I can now.
Okay. All right. Well, needless to say, I'm not here because I'm going to teach on technology and yeah. So
that's awesome. Well, for anyone who doesn't know, though, by the way, and I want to just give you a proper intro here. In addition to having served our country bravely in the United States Marines, and thank you for your service, Joe was also he was a lender, top producing lender, has sold a ton of property as an agent. He's a top 1% growth leader here with eXp Realty.
Yeah, like I was kind of saying, quite honestly, I mean, the things I'm not good at are technology. Lead generation, systems, starting marketing, that type of thing. The things I am good at are, what I specialize in is basically conversion and working with buyers and getting things done quickly. And I always kind of joke that, my goal is to get people off of my list. So when, you have a bunch of buyers on your list or whatever, first of all, a lot of people want, 20 buyers or whatever. I only want to be working with about 3 people at a time. I'm just trying to technically just get people off of my list. Zig Ziglar says everybody's either a prospect or a suspect. So for me personally, I try to make a determination really quickly as to whether somebody's a prospect or a suspect. The prospects get attention, the suspects are off my list, or at least ignored until they, get more interesting down the road. So what I basically teach all the time is on how to get yourself set up mentally, and the 3 main components, what I consider to be the main 3 components in successful selling. And I think it's going to be even more so going forward because of the fact that, with the NAR rulings and everything else like that, this is going to turn into a much more professional business. And I think
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's going to benefit everybody that, actually wants to, take this friggin' seriously. So, this is kind of tricky because I'm on my phone, but I also have my stuff on my laptop here and I don't know where I'm talking. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring up. And so we'll be walking through today. And I've talked to some of you guys before. Some of you have been through my buyer presentation type stuff. It's really, as far as I'm concerned, for me personally, it's my secret sauce. For me personally, I think that all of my success comes through this very, very simple way of doing business. And whenever I see people leave the business, people that don't make it, it has to do with one of these, couple of components, and it could have been fixed because these are things that are not rocket science. Again, I don't know how to do anything that you don't know how to do. All I did is study how to position things a certain way to clients to make selling really, really easy. And and that's all it is. I looked at the stats the other day. Knock on wood, I'm off to a good start. Um, number 16 so far in Southern Oregon out of the MLS out of, however many agents there are. And there's more than a handful. And there's a lot of agents I look in there and they're really, really struggling right now. And a lot of the reasons that they're struggling is going to be just these simple little things right here that we'll get into. Again, some of the main things that I want to do is just basically I want to get people off my list. When I look through some of my notes and stuff like that from previous presentations I've given, if I didn't know me better, I'd think I was, kind of a complete ass. I mean, I literally put down I want people off my list. I put down that I'm not here to build relationships. Whereas a lot of you're really big on building relationships. And I was literally thinking, I showed a home yesterday to a guy I really like, but that if he gets under contract and the deal closes 6 months from now, I know I won't recognize his name. And unless I end up seeing the property, I definitely won't be able to make a connection. Where some of you people go out and fricking have lunch with people and go fishing and invite them to church and stuff like that. And that's just not me. So I'm pretty smiley. However, I'm just all about business. So this right here, we're going to go ahead and jump right into things. This is just the first screen, and what I'm usually doing right here is obviously we're a ways into 2024, but as far as trying to establish a goal and what we're trying to do, and then 2,000 hours is. Hey Jeff, feel free to interrupt me at any time too if everything's
Hey Joe,
off.
I was about to say, if you have a screen to share, let's go ahead and share that from your device, and I can pull that up on the screen. Just hit screen share over there, and we'd be good.
Okay, where let's see here. There. So anyway, this is what I try to work on, right? So this, here's our goals, 2024. Everybody's already did this at the beginning of the year, unless you're like me and then you didn't do it. And again, I don't do any of this shit. All I do is sell. Quite honestly, I'm like the least organized person on the phone call, but all I know how to do is talk to people the right way when I'm standing in front of them. So I want that to be actually something that's I want you to take from this, because when we get into that kind of part, you're going to realize that it truly is the secret sauce. It doesn't matter how many leads you have if you're not saying the right things when you're in front of the person. So this right here, 2024 goals, everybody came up with their numbers based on 2,000 hours, of 50 weeks a year, 40 hours a week. And quite honestly, most realtors think they work a ton. Nobody in here is even working 40 hours a week. So, that's one thing. You got to be honest with yourself. You're probably not working hard enough. And, but if you were to do that math, it comes up with a dollar volume, and you figure out what your cost per hour is. So all of a sudden, if you've got $200,000 on there is what you want to make this year, pretty practical. It's a good producer in real estate, but that's $100 an hour. And so if you're doing anything that you could get somebody else to do for under $100 an hour, then you shouldn't be doing it. So if you're putting signs in yards, if you're putting, lock boxes on, if you're, doing your own transaction coordination, stop that right now. That's just silly. There's too many things you should be having somebody else do, and you should be spending your time in front of clients. So, but anyway, that's where you're trying to figure out. That's the important thing about that line right there. Is just trying to figure out what your value is per hour, and then trying to get somebody else to do the things that you can pay for less than that dollar amount. Now, when we get into our strengths and weaknesses, and I'm going to pause here for just a second, the strengths and advantages, right? So a strength might be that, good communication skills, or, hard worker. And then an advantage might be, my family's been plugged into the community for 40 years, or, I've gone through tons of sales training. So I got my personal strengths and I have advantages that are set up for me. I'm at the biggest brokerage and whatever. So Those are the things that could be strengths, and weaknesses would be like, okay, I don't know technology, or I work for a crappy broker, things like that. So I want everybody for 1 second. You don't have to write everything down because I'm only going to pause for a second, but I want you to at least think for a second a couple of your strengths in this business or advantages, and then a couple of like weaknesses or obstacles, things that are not getting you to where you want to go. So what's helping you get to where you want to go, and what's keeping you from being where you want to go? I'll play the Jeopardy music here. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Hey, Jeff, ask somebody a couple of weaknesses. What are your weaknesses? No, you don't have any weaknesses. What
Oh,
are
please. No, no, no. I have tons of weaknesses. I
give me
find
a
that my
strength
weak
and advantage? What do you
if
got?
I yeah, if I was to do this, I would say my strengths are being aligned with EXP. My strengths are being aligned with an incredible leadership team, being a really strong closer, being pretty fearless in the face of adversity. My weaknesses are I tend to be a spaz. I'm on too many things at once. My brain's going in too many places. I tend to be, and that can cause me to be unfocused. I go in and out of periods of activity and then periods of deep inactivity where I get like really introspective and on myself. And I can tend to be really, really hard on myself and kind of in my mental game. And I'm really tough on people around me, especially like the closer my circle gets. So I would just like off the cuff. I didn't write them down, but that's probably where I would go. If anybody else feels comfortable sharing, you can jump in, just unmute yourself and give us a couple of strengths and a couple of weaknesses. Because here's the thing, by the way, guys, I'm sure a few people on here kind of identified with a few of those that I just said, right? It's like none of us are snowflakes. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. It's okay to admit it. Anybody want to share? Anybody? Nope, it's all
I'll
right.
jump in here.
Hey,
I'll jump
Jason.
in. So, really, the weaknesses is what I was looking at, and my couple of my biggest weaknesses are consistency. I tend to have to make up what I didn't do yesterday too often, and then knowing when to say no. I'm getting better at it, but I'm just not doing it enough. So when you talk, Joe, about putting signs out and doing this and doing that, like I've gotten much better about not being the handyman, but that's still a weakness that I'm working on. So. And a strength would be that I've got a really full head of hair, unlike Jeff. That's about it.
All right, Joanne and Tammy, I think they wanted to share as well.
Okay, hi. We have to unmute over there, but we talk over here. I don't have systems. That's my number one. Can't seem to figure out how to get systems, so I lose a lot of things falling through the cracks. But one of the things that is really, to me, interesting that I have to think about is that I have a strength and a weakness that's the same thing, and that's honesty. So I'm like honest to a fault. You'll never wonder what I'm thinking because I will tell you. And so
That's my shirt today.
it's really cute.
Okay, good. She liked it.
So anyway, so what happens is I can get myself into trouble. I can also get a lot of trust with clients because they love that I'm just going to tell them, don't buy, I forbid you, do not buy this house for these reasons or whatever. But then other times they get a little bit offended because I'm telling them maybe too much what to do or what not to do or something. So anyway, I'm just pointing out that your strengths can also be a weakness in the to a fault. So
Totally. A hammer can be used for good or to murder somebody, right? So it's always a tool or a challenge. That's awesome. All right, Joe.
No, I love that. And Joanne, because one of the things I use this when I'm teaching somebody, when I'm with a brand new agent and I'm walking in through how to have success in the business. And one of the things I'm actually the reason I do it is it all comes down to really just one thing. I want to find out whether they're an owner or a victim. I'm trying to find out if they're sitting there and taking responsible for the things that are not working for them. I just had 3 top producers tell me what's going on and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And each person said their weakness was something that was their thing. Nobody said, well, I'm in a crappy market where I live. Well, my commission split's not good. Well, nobody made excuses you are all accountable. And then that's a sign of a top producer. Anybody who was sitting there running scenarios through their head that had to do with some outside thing that was keeping them from being productive, you're usually being a victim. And like the quote at the bottom of the screen says, "We're all made self-made, but only the successful will admit it." Yeah, we have people that help us and stuff like that, but it is true that only the successful people want to sit there and admit it. Everybody else makes excuses a lot of the time. So anyway, I like that. That you're all owners. So all right. This is one of my favorite quotes in all of sales, just period. And it's because it really is the kind of the essence of what my business is. And the reason most sales training fails is because it's implemented at the doing and not at the being. And that's Steve Chandler, who's an awesome sales coach. And most people are getting training somewhere, and they want to learn. If you're at an office and they start bringing people in, it's like, oh, we're going to do a training, and they're teaching you the new forms, whatever. They bring in a well guy to talk about well flow. Who cares? These are all things that bring in a lender to hear about their niche that they're going to have for the next 3 weeks, and then you're going to call them and they're going, we don't do that anymore. There's a whole bunch of nonsense crap. These are all just that's not really sales training. And when people are trying to even train you sales, right? So for instance, I sit there and I could tell you what Zig Ziglar says, and the assumptive close, and you're trying to put their head in the house on some of them, and the puppy dog close. There's different things that you're trying to do. You can't close if you're not solid in here. If you don't have confidence, if you're not the right person. Zig Ziglar says you can't teach the wrong person to do the right thing. So, and I quote people all the freaking time, and that's because I've studied sales, and because of that stuff stuck in my head now, and it's actually good stuff to have stuck in your head. So remember that the reason that most sales training fails is implemented at the doing and not at the being. If I'm sitting here trying to teach the right person who's got the right conviction, they got the right accountability, and they're an owner, not a victim, on how to do something, then there's a really good chance that those seeds are going to grow. But if I'm talking to the wrong person, they're going to be making excuses and talking about the market and their disadvantages and everything else like that. So 3 most important things, as far as I'm concerned, in sales are integrity, work ethic, and confidence. And as it says, integrity, don't begin without it. If you don't have that, get out of here. Work ethic, only you will know. And I think that work ethic is going to be something that's going to be more and more prevalent moving forward. It's something that we used to be able to kind of half-assed, but I think as things get better, this is going to be more of a professional industry, and the work ethic is going to have to go up. And then confidence, first yours and then theirs. So you have to have confidence in yourself first, and then once you have confidence in yourself, the client will have confidence in you. The client's not going to have confidence in you until you have confidence in you.
Hey, Joe, one thing that I see here too that I've heard come up a lot, because you hear the word integrity batted around a lot in real estate, right? Like a lot of people are like integrity, they even call themselves the integrity group, and then they're like scamming people or whatever. I don't know. I don't know a specific group. I'm just saying I've seen that kind of stuff batted around. And here's what's funny about the word integrity for me, and I heard somebody describe it this way: it's doing the right thing when nobody will ever know. It's really an internal game. It's not, I've got integrity so I can look cool and tell everyone how integrity-ish I am, right? Integrity is about when it comes down to it and it really matters and it's a tough decision, maybe even that costs me, whether it's personally, professionally, identity, whatever that is, I do the right thing every time, no matter what, even when nobody can see me, even when nobody will ever singularly know that I've done the right thing, because it's not about anyone knowing, it's about having integrity. And I just think that word gets glossed over so much, as like, yeah, don't lie. Yeah, okay, sure, don't lie. But that's too visible. I think it has to go beyond that. And in real estate, this plays out really, really big. So I love this list. And I love yours about work ethic, only you will know. That is, I wrote that down on my notepad here. That made it in the book. So that's good stuff, man.
Well, in 2008, when in lending, when the lending market was just, horrible and everybody was starving. And a buddy of mine, Mike Towery, that ran the top producing real estate office in town, and he had top agents there. But he told me, he and I went to lunch one day just talking biz, and he said, he goes, you know what? He goes, when these guys go home at night and talk about how hard it was and how they didn't make any money, he said, I wish their wives could see how hard they weren't working during the day. I went, wow,
Woo!
that's an
Yikes.
ass kicker. And the thing was, it was a time to be depressed. It was a time to feel defeated. It was a very difficult time to find deals, but it wasn't necessarily a reason to just be sitting at your desk and not doing anything. And that's really, only you will know, because the other people aren't going to know, but you're going to feel guilty about it. You're gonna know that you weren't doing anything. Integrity, on to what you said, Jeff. I love it, because one of the things that I said, and it's really where I kind of transcended in sales. When I first got into sales, first of all, I never thought I was gonna be a sales guy or want to talk to anybody. But when I got into sales and started listening to Zig Ziglar and everything else, and I was in insurance, and at that time I was a young guy and I was trying to sell. I was a sales guy. Just buy my shit. That was just, I need to sell this. I need to sell this. I want to pay a check. I'm a sales guy. That's my job. And then I started listening to Zig Ziglar and getting more about the integrity piece and stuff like that. And they talk about you can smell a desperate salesperson. And one thing, and it'll come up in here, but for me, the integrity piece is what I say to myself and what I teach other people is that my wallet and the client's needs are unrelated. And it's just, to me, that was the simplest thing. When I literally got to a point where I said my wallet and the client's needs are unrelated, it got super easy for me. And it took selling out of the equation, and I'll get on that. The core really quick. One more thing I want to say on this part right here is that it's not easy to tell when you look at a salesperson or somebody on this call whether or not they're putting in the work to do these things, to study and learn their craft and everything else like that, because you cannot tell by looking at somebody. So if somebody's an athlete, you're going to be able to look across the room, and if you look at the basketball tournament that just finished up and those guys walked on the floor and you went, that team looks prepared. They look like they're going to be awesome. They look tall and fit and athletic, and they're good. You can tell an athlete oftentimes by the way they look, but you can't with a sales guy. So still, it goes back into only you will know. It's when things start coming out of their mouth that all of a sudden you realize that there's nothing there, or there's no confidence, or there might be no integrity. They might even slip up on that. So again, it's you got to put in the work. Now, getting to the integrity piece, kind of what you were talking about, and what I said, integrity makes it easy. It truly makes it easy. It doesn't mean you're dishonest. Integrity means you don't blur the lines between what you want, what's best for the client. Remember, your wallet and the client's needs are unrelated. I just can't tell you enough how much it makes the process easy. One of the things that I do, which is just part of integrity, is getting it right in your head first, right? Like, if you guys left your wallet on the table at my house, I'm not going to be going, man, I wonder if Jeff would know if I took $20. It's just, you get to a point where, with integrity, where it's just ridiculous. But then when you start getting into sales, you start, I like Joanne, where she's saying, her honesty, sometimes we still got to let somebody buy a home. It's their home. Give the warnings, but let them buy. But at the same time, we feel those pressures. So when I get ready to go show a home, and you'll never hear me tell an agent when he says, okay, I got to take off, I'm going to go show a home. I'll never say, go sell it or go sell something. I'll always say, I hope it's the right home. When I started saying that to myself, everything changed. So I used to, and I remember the last time I said I accidentally slipped up on my way. I was on my way driving, and I was on my way up to show a home. It was a nice big home. And I literally, and thinking to myself, I thought, I hope they buy it. And then I caught myself, and I scolded myself, because I went, no, I hope it's the right home. So if you go there hoping that they buy a home, there you're showing up with the intent to sell a home to them. And they're coming in from this side to look, and you're coming in from the other side to sell. And you're somewhat of an adversary. And whereas if I'm going there hoping it's the right home, I'm going there in expectation, locked arm in arm with them, hoping it's the right home. My heart's positioned the right way. I'm not going there to sell, I'm going there to see. And then because of the preparation I've done ahead of time, knowing the market, knowing the value of the home in relation to what else is out there and the condition it's in when we get there, knowing what the client has told me that they're looking for and what's important to them, then at that point in time, if we're standing in the right home, then I will indeed explain to them that we are in the right home. But I didn't go there with the intent to sell. I will reveal to them that this is what they described to me. And then because I have done that in an eloquent way, they're gonna go, yeah, we should be writing an offer on this thing. And if they still don't understand they're standing in the right home, I'm going to help them more understand that they're standing in the right home. But I'm not going to do that, to Joanne's point, if I'm standing in the wrong home. But at the same time, there's times people want to buy a crappy little house. And I'm like staring at it, just going, really? Seriously? But then oftentimes, if you'll let them, you understand that there's reasons that they wanted that crappy little house. And I remember walking out of a crappy little house with a guy. He qualified for more. I'm thinking, really? It's not even a good neighborhood. There's nothing redeeming. And then when we were standing out by the car, he said, you know what? He goes, I feel comfortable in this neighborhood. And it kind of like changed my heart. I went, oh my God, I'm judging the neighborhood and I'm judging the house and I'm judging all this stuff. And this is the kind of where this guy came from. And he didn't want to be in a better neighborhood because for him personally, he didn't feel comfortable there. So that's why sometimes even if you think you're doing right by them, you might just be, as Joanne said, offending them. So doing things the right way, you get everything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get you what they want. And, again, for the 30th time, so work ethic. I'm loving this one more and more lately, just because it used to be, it was obvious, and again, only how hard you're working, and you can read through all that. However hard you're working, you're the only one that knows. It is a numbers game in real estate. How many of this does it take to get to this? Does it take to get to this? But really, to me, real estate, the work ethic part is getting deeper, and it's not just going through the motions of actual selling houses and stuff like that. The work ethic now, and quite honestly, if you're not doing this right now, you're going to get your asses kicked the second half of this year. So the work ethic now is getting your head around what the hell is coming down the pipe and how you're going to be talking to people. Your work ethic right now, a lot of that is going to have to be trying to figure out how you're going to be positioning things, what your scripting is. Yes, scripting is good. Zig Ziglar says that even, these believable movie stars that we watch that make us cry are reading from a script. So it's important to know that there's nothing wrong with having some of your stuff fairly scripted, saying some of the stuff the exact same way, but you need to get your head around exactly what you're going to be doing moving forward, and that's going to be part of your work ethic. You've got to turn into a pro. It's and Jason, I know he loves it when I talk about your 9 to 5 or your 8 to 5 during that time frame. That's not the time where you get to be working on crap like this. If I want to work on making sure that I have the things down that I want to say, I have to do that at night, or I have to do it early in the morning, because I don't get to do it this time of day, because this is the time of day that I should only be talking to buyers and sellers. Or at EXP, you can be recruiting an agent. But that's the only things you can be doing. If you are not doing that high dollar sales activity during that middle part of the day, you're wasting the valuable sales hours of the day. So you can't sit there up in the morning, get in front of your computer and work on your CRM all day, and then tell me that you just worked 8 hours. Because those things, there's other things that could be being done late in the day. And there's other people while you're dinking around doing that are out there talking to buyers and sellers, and they're actually doing the meat of the business, and they're getting deals done. So that's going to be part of it too, is not just what your work ethic is, but trying to figure out what should be done at what times. And some of the stuff isn't fun. Yeah, for some of you, it might be more fun to be able to just sit there and work on systems and stuff during the day. But I'm sorry, that's not your activity, and you shouldn't be doing it. Up here, we're at the very beginning. It's like if you're not putting up the numbers that you would expect, other than work ethic, what could be the answer? Great agent down in Northern California, Josh Parker. Heard him say one time, he has asked his agents if their numbers aren't where they want them to be. He just says, so what is it? He says, are you not working, or are you not very good? And you can see that I have a tendency to be a little bit firm on here and stuff like that too. That's what it is. If you wanted to go back to that very first thing and say, what are my numbers, and what are my strengths, and what are my weaknesses, and what are my obstacles? I can tell you right now, when my numbers aren't where I want them to be, I'm usually either I'm not working, or I'm not very good. If I'm trying to recruit agents and I'm botching calls, I'm like going, okay, I'm obviously not paying attention. I didn't do my homework. I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't do that very well. More often than not, it's like I didn't do it enough. But in sales, it's the same thing. If you're not putting up the numbers you want to put, you're either not working hard enough, or you're not very good.
Hey, Joe, I love this because it's so unbelievably relevant right now to what's coming in our industry. And it's a great thing. I actually agree with you. I think it's going to clarify. And for everyone on here, you're all professionals. So just keep that hat on and understand. I put the quote here from Thomas Edison. I've posted it a couple of times, and I'm really anchoring on this one right now. He says that opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work. And unfortunately, I think that's what happens is people believe that the word opportunity means I'm going to win the lottery, right? By the way, congratulations. I think someone on this call won the $1 billion lottery in Oregon this week, I hope. I know somebody in Oregon did, so I know a bunch of you are there. Hopefully it was one of you. But that's a lottery win. That's not an opportunity, and it's certainly not work. Work looks like work. Right? At the end of the day, it's not a bad thing to work hard during the day. And I love Joe's clarity on this, though. Sometimes we get confused in real estate and we think that splashing around in the pool is swimming. Splashing around in the pool is not swimming. Splashing around in the pool is just making a bunch of mess with a bunch of water, right? And that's a lot of activity, but it's not actual motion. It's not forward progress. Forward progress in a business means that you're doing things that are going to earn you money at the end of the day. And it's not by invalidating your integrity. It's not by selling a house. It's about finding the right one for those people. So always there's this system of checks and balances, but it still comes back to, are you truly working, and are you working on the right things? I love that. And your quote at the bottom is absolutely hilarious, Joe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I always love that. Yeah, for 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, I get lucky. The Jim Rohn thing there, in the words of Jim Rohn, success is easy if you do not neglect to do the things that are easy, or they're easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. Anybody that's on this call has access to go back into the community center and see an interview that Steve Thomas did. It was phenomenal. And the thing about Steve is, Steve's did, a lot more deals than me so far this year, and he will do way more deals than me. But Steve did over 100 deals last year when, I think most of us would agree the market kind of sucked. But Steve, put up, I think the same numbers as he did the year before. What he does is easy to do. He knows he's like me. He doesn't know anything about anything. He doesn't do a bunch of advertising. He doesn't know systems. He doesn't buy a bunch of leads. He doesn't do any of that stuff. He just makes phone calls religiously 2 hours a day, every morning, and goes out and sells 100 homes. If you go back and look at that, it's going to bug the hell out of you, because you're going to look at it and you go, I could do what he does, but you don't. Right. So then it goes back down to, is you don't know what you want to, are you not working hard enough? or do you not know what you're doing? And compared to Steve, none of us are working hard enough. I mean, it's just I'm not, and I would imagine most of the rest of you aren't because nobody else is putting up 100 deals. So it's it's just literally finding a way to make things work and then doing them. Um, I like this one thing on here. It's just simple. It says create your pipeline like you're cooking for Thanksgiving. It's all about the leftovers. Um, it's kind of like when you go get a pizza and it's like, do we need medium or large? What do you say? Do you go with the medium and maybe not have enough? You always go large. It's just like, whatever, we'll have extra. Always have extra. So you need to keep filling your pipeline. You need to just not, you can't get that two deals in there and then stare at them and turn into a complete nuisance to the other realtor and the lender because you're freaking hanging on to them like Tommy Boy. And, you got to freaking just keep filling them in, filling them in, filling them in, get a freaking pipeline. And then all of a sudden one of them falls out and you're like, who was that guy? I forget it. A week later, you don't even remember who the guy was that you had under contract for 350. So you got to keep your head down. You can't get through that accordion thing. And that goes back into that work ethic too. You got to have some other people doing some of the nonsense stuff so you can stay active in the sales piece. And they see here, yeah, I'm going to say it again. Everybody's going to need to start getting their positioning statement and their scripting done. Sig Ziglar says, I say this all the time, though, in order to be convincing, you have to be convinced. So in order to be convincing, you have to be convinced. Too many people on this call right now are not convinced about the NAR situation. Too many people do not know what to say if somebody asks them a question and says, if a buyer or seller says, well, what do you think of that? And you don't have a built-in response. You don't have your 30-second elevator speech on that. And you have to get that. That's your job. That is your job. How you position things is your job. That's all you actually do. You're positioning whether something is valuable or not valuable. Is it a good deal? Is it a bad deal? Are they screwing us over? Or are they not screwing us over? Should you buy it? Should you not buy it? Should we ask for closing costs? Should we not ask for closing costs? Is it a good time to buy or is it not? Is it a good time to sell or is it not? Is the NAR thing good or is it not? You don't know those things, just zip it. I mean, until you know why it's good, because I can answer a good on every single thing. Yeah, it's a good time to buy because it's a good time to sell because the NAR is good because and every one of these things, but I get it in my head because I cannot be convincing until I'm convinced. You need to take some time on any subject that you're going to be called on and be positioning it to yourself, right? So position it to yourself, just like when I position that, I'm going out there and I hope it's the right home versus I'm going out there trying to sell a home. That's all I'm doing is positioning that to me. I'm trying to sell me that's the right way to do it. So because then once I'm convinced, then I can go out there and do it. So same thing with the NAR stuff. The other day I was sitting here saying commissions haven't changed. You only the advertising of commissions has changed. So if somebody asks me, that's what I'm going to say. It's just like matter of fact, commissions? No, they haven't even changed. Just the way we can advertise commissions has changed. I was standing in front of a property showing it to a buyer the other day, $500,000 house. He has two properties that he may have me list. And he'd had two other people look at him already. And he asked me about NAR and the commission. He's like, now what I heard was, and I had the MLS sheet in front of me that said 2.5% on it to the home we were looking at. And I took the MLS sheet and I showed it to him and I said, see that where it says 2.5%? I said, so the 2.5% is currently advertised. The only difference between now and July is that number's not going to be there. The guy will still get 2.5. It's just not going to be there. That's it. Have a nice day. When I list your homes, I'm going to go ahead and account for the fact that guy is going to be getting paid down the road. So anyway, what'd you think of the house we were just in? That was very easy for me because I've already taken a bunch of time to convince myself that that's the way it's going to work out. But if you haven't did that, you're going to have an awkward conversation with somebody, and then you might not get the listings down the road. He might not feel comfortable about what he's doing with you right now and whether he trusts you. It all comes down to, being able to be that big advisor right out of the gate. Let's see here. Confidence. I'm going to have to race through some of this stuff. Confidence is the key to everything. So in front of me is a picture of Muhammad Ali. It says confidence has no competition. And everything that we're doing right here is to help us build our confidence, that all that work ethic as far as learning what to say, making sure you're positioning it, it's building your own confidence. Most people that leave this business because they weren't confident in what they were doing. There's a bunch of people on this call right now that know that they're not the best person on the call. You don't have to be the best agent on the call. You don't even have to be the top 10 agents on this call. There's 10 great agents on here, and there's plenty to be money made if you're number 11, 12, 13, all the way down to 46. Actually, I'm 2 people on there, so let's go 45. But there's a lot of money to be made if you just sit there and put in the work and get your confidence up. And what we want to do, that the great thing is you're at a company where you have a ton of people that want to sew into you and help you get better. Like any single person can get with me afterwards and say, hey, Joe, you bored the hell out of me for an hour and a half, but can I get 20 more minutes of your time? And I would be glad to help you in any way that I can, kind of positioning what's going on with NAR or just getting your head right. Because there's a lot of people thinking about whether or not they should still be in the business right now or whether or not they're going to be moving forward. And I can tell you it's going to get better moving forward, but we have to get better moving forward. Those of us that take the time to get better are going to be rewarded for that extra effort we put in and that extra professionalism. So, a couple of things that I do that build confidence in me, that set me up for confidence every time I'm getting ready to work with a client and then to build the confidence in them, is that I am very scripted. I didn't used to think that I was scripted. My buddy Scott Gephardt there told me, Joe, you're more scripted than anybody I know. And I'm going, no, I'm not. And he goes, yeah, you are. You just didn't write it down. And he was right. I was wrong. But anyway, I say the exact same thing to the client every single time. So I meet a client, oftentimes it's at a house, might be on the phone, but the first time we're sitting there talking, it might be before we go in, might be right after we came out. I'm gonna say, hey, listen, Jason, I know you don't know me, but just I'm the least pushy guy in the business. So it doesn't matter to me if you do something 6 days, 6 months, doesn't even matter. The only time you're going to see any urgency out of me at all is when something hits the market that you described to me. Because if you miss out, I want it to be your fault, not mine. It's that fair. I said the same freaking thing every time. And the thing is that there's a reason for it. And I'm gonna I'll circle back here really quick. But when I sold insurance, we were instructed to memorize this presentation. It was a laminated card. You had to know it front and back. And I memorized it. And we had to practice with a buddy until we could go get in front of the sales manager and exemplify the fact that we know how to do it. And then he'd give us leads and send us out in the field to make money. So I memorized it, had it nailed, pretty confident. I go up and I sat down. I went through the presentation in front of him. And he goes, well, why'd you say that? And I went, well, I said what you said. I just kind of changed it up a little bit just because it was more like me. And he goes, no, you changed the meaning of the whole thing. And then he explained to me why he had the words in there that he had in there, why he had positioned it exactly the way he had positioned it. And it wasn't built for Joe Yates to go ahead and say whatever the hell he wanted to say. And from that, I learned moving forward. So I've given things to people before, and I said, well, didn't just tell them this. And they came back and said, I told them. And they didn't. They said no. And I said, what'd you tell them? They told me. I said, that's not what I said. You barely changed it. Yeah, but it sounded more like me. Reminds me of Tracy Gagnon when she says, yeah, well, when you're making $1 million a year, you can say what you want to say, but until then, say what I say. So when I start off by saying, I know you don't know me, but just so you know, I'm the least pushy guy in the business, I get people to stop me right there and say, thank you. So it drops their guard the second I say, I'm the least pushy guy in the business. And then I say, it doesn't matter to me if it takes 6 days. If you do something in 6 days, 6 months, doesn't matter to me. There's a reason I say 6 days and 6 months. I don't say it doesn't matter to me. Like I gave this to somebody, a buddy of mine, and he said, I told him, I do the same thing. I tell him the same thing. It doesn't matter if you do something in 30 days or I'm like, 30 days? I don't want to wait 30 days for a guy to write an offer. I would never say that. But I also don't say it doesn't matter to me if you do something today or 6 months from now. Because if I say today, they're like, dude, I'm not doing anything today. You said you weren't pushy, and now you think I might write an offer today? So literally, I've thought through every single thing that I'm saying right there. Right. Least pushy guy in the business. Doesn't matter if it takes 6 days, 6 months. Doesn't matter to me. The only time you're going to see any urgency out of me is when something hits the market that you described to me. I didn't say I'll get a hold of you when I see something great. You'll get urgency out of me when something hits the market that you described to me. And then I hit him with the tie down that I use over and over again throughout the transaction. Because if you miss out, I want it to be your fault, not mine. Is that fair? And they usually chuckle. And
Hey,
then
Joe,
later on,
would you repeat that again? So the only time you're going to see any urgency from me is when something hits the market. Go ahead.
that you described to me. So it does a couple things there right now. It says I'm not going to be a spaz. Unlike most people, and you can say what you want, but I don't put people on drip campaigns, because if I do, I'm going to send them a bunch of nonsense. So when I send somebody something, in this day and age, they're seeing it before us anyway, right? They're going to see it before, they're going to see it as oftentimes they're going to see the property before we see the property. So the last thing they need me to do is send them a bunch of crap nonstop that I don't know. And I'm sending auto responders, how'd you like that one, Bill? We're under contract, Joe, so I don't do any of that crap. So, so the only time you're urgency on me is when something that hits the market like you described to me. And then that whole, if you miss out, I want it to be your fault, not mine. Is that fair? That'll come up later, because then all of a sudden something does hit the market and I say, we need to get out there and see this one. And he'll go, yeah, can we get out there Monday? And it's Thursday. I'm like going, sure, we can go out there and watch the new owners move in, because I tell them that, no, you're going to miss out. And if they say I can't get out there before Monday, I say, okay, no problem, man. I said, I totally understand. I want to go at your pace. Just remember what I said at the beginning, though. If you miss out, I want it to be your fault, not mine. Just want you to know I'm available, right now.
Hey, Joe,
And
what's the tie down that you're using on that? If you miss out, I want it to be your fault, not mine. And then what do you say there?
is that fair?
Is that fair?
I'm just saying this because all I'm doing is, see, listen to that. If you sit there and tell somebody, first of all, if you start by telling somebody how this whole process is, how much confidence does that show to somebody when you walk up to them and say, hey, just so you know, I'm the least pushy guy in the business. It doesn't matter to me if it takes 6 days, 6 months. The only time you're going to see urgency out of me when something hits the market like you described to me. And, because if you miss out on something, I want it to be your fault, not mine. Is that fair? I've told them, I'm your guy. I'm walking you through. There's no pressure. But when I hear that when something hit the market like you told me you want, it's going to create urgency in me. And I'm going to be ready, and you will not be missing out on anything because of me. You would only miss out because of you. So I've established a lot of credibility. I've established myself as the leader in this thing. I've established that I'm, I expect to be, their guy. So, I think just by taking that much charge in the whole thing, you immediately, gain a lot of confidence. Man, you get shit going everywhere.
I'm going to put it on the screen so everybody can see it here, Joe. I put it in the chat, but I wanted everybody to definitely have access here. There you go, guys.
And then when people will sit there and so then after that, I get to use that same line often as we continue on through the process. I'll sit there and, we'll be in a house and, somebody will say, what do you think? I like it, Joe. What do you think? I'm like, what do you think we should do? I'm like, well, I believe in you standing in the home you want to live in, you buy it. It's like, what do you think we should offer? And I'll sit there and say, if this is the one you want to live in, don't get cute. So, I'll tell them all the time. I'll use this other line. I say, my job's not to save you $5,000. My job's to make sure that you and your family end up in the home you want to live in for a long time. So same thing, right? How much confidence do you have to tell somebody, my job is not to save you $5,000. My job is to make sure that you and your family end up in the home you want to live in for a long time. But you can tell the way I say it over. My job is not to save you $5,000. My job is to make sure you and your family end up in the home you want to live in for a long time. It doesn't matter if it's 6 days, 6 months, doesn't matter to me. The only time you're going to see urgency out of me is when somebody hits the market you described to me. Because if you miss out, I want it to be your fault, not mine. Is that fair? That's the thing about scripting.
Woo!
It's just like you just hit rewind, hit play, and it comes out again. So I can be thinking about other things. And I think Zig says that as well, that once you have things memorized, you can be doing things, you can be observing. It's just, you're not trying to figure out what to say at certain times or anything else like that. You don't have to wing it each time. There's always going to be, you're going to have to be able to adapt to certain situations and stuff like that. But as far as having your basic stuff down, I mean, it's really important. I have my people write strong offers. If I always love it when somebody says, I've showed them 14 homes. I'm like, why did you show them 14 of the wrong homes? I mean, what the hell are you doing? You freaking tour guide, move to LA, get on one of them big tall buses. I mean, I don't want to go look at 3 homes. I mean, I'm assuming when we go out to the first home, it probably better be the right home. Why are we driving out there if it's not the right home? I mean, if we could get blindsided, but I'm not just driving around for shits and grins. I mean, I'm out there intending to write an offer on the right home. And I'm assuming that this is something that they described to me. It looks like it makes sense to me. If the guy says that, I need a 5-bedroom with a 3-car garage and a half acre and it's a condo, I'm like going, dude, I'm not going out there. You drive out there. You might find out that this is a condo. So, but I'm not a tour guide. I don't show a whole crap ton of homes. I sell very, very fast. I expect to be writing offers and I expect to be winning when I write the offer because I've already positioned it. Do you want to live in this home? First of all, at the beginning, what do? I decided if this person is a prospect or a suspect. I don't go around writing offers for suspects. I don't write. I'm not the guy who says, hey, I got this investor and he wants to buy 25 properties this year and he just wants to find ones that he has $75,000 equity right out of the gate. That's great. You keep him. I don't want him at all. I want to show him no homes and write no offers for that guy. I want prospects, people that are realistic, that are going to be out there engaged, trying to buy the home that they want to live in and are willing to pay the amount they're qualified for to purchase that home. And then I'm going to get them to pull the trigger to the fullest to make sure that they win. Because I never hear anybody regretting that they ended up winning and getting a hold of me a year later and saying, Joe, I feel like I paid $6,000 more for that home than I should have, But people are going to regret if they don't win. People do regret that they went out there and they wrote a bunch of offers and they lost. So you've got to be good enough, confident enough to be able to control the client, control the situation, and benefit them by being a little bit of a hard ass and getting them to write the right offer so that they don't lose.
I love it. Hey, Joe, would you pull your other slides back up on your computer over there? Sorry, I'm done doing the whiteboard now. That'll get us back on track with your presentation.
All right. Well, needless, we didn't actually even move it anymore. Let's see. Yeah, confidence. One of the things about confidence too, and it's all going to come down to confidence, but it's the preparation piece. But some people are going to say, I'm brand new. I don't have 10 deals or 20 deals or 50 deals under my belt yet. My confidence is low. But there are certain things that doing deals is going to be the easiest way confident. Studying your craft and studying the market. So studying the market, studying real estate, but also working on that core and studying sales and getting to a point where you know how to explain things, even if you're not doing a bunch of deals. There's a lot of coaches that, in pro football that never, played higher than high school football. But they learned and they know what they're talking about and everything else like that. So you can learn and get really good at stuff, even if you're, even if you're not doing as many transactions as somebody else. Make sure and leverage that we're on a big, powerful company. We're the biggest, fastest growing company in real estate. That's something to leverage and help you build your confidence. If you're working in an office with a bunch of strong agents, refer to the we thing. I am part of your we. So lean on whoever you need to lean on to be able to build your confidence and make yourself feel good. Integrity builds confidence. When you know that you're doing things for the right reason, you should be more confident. Where you're going to lose confidence is if you feel like you're trying to screw somebody over. Now all of a sudden it's scary, right? You're nervous because you're trying to get away with something. But if you have integrity and you're trying to do things the right way, that in and of itself builds confidence because you know that you're out there looking out for the good for them. And that makes you want to get done with them. You know in your heart that they're better off with you because you do things the right way. So integrity builds confidence. And then to me, nothing else can build more confidence than that scripting and getting what you're going to say to people, getting convinced so that you can be convincing. If you're not convincing, you're not convinced. So just take the time to learn all that stuff.
Hey, Joe, I also feel like with scripting, I mean, my background also involved a lot of scripting. When I first got trained in sales, I was with Dell Computers. And when we did our closing component, it was 100% legally vetted, meaning if you missed one word, you had to go back and start over. Like literally, you had to go back to the opening word and do the entire thing from the beginning if the prospect would allow you, which is unlikely. And what was hilarious about that process is I started learning the value of how relaxed you feel when you're actually properly scripted. And by the way, everyone thinks that scripts are a bad thing, but the bottom line is if we recorded anyone on this call, even a single top producer says, I don't use scripts, they're saying the same thing all the time. They're just not aware of what they're saying. So Joe's memo to those folks would be maybe record yourself and find out what the heck it is you're saying, because maybe it's awesome and maybe you might not love every single word of it and you might want to change little bits of it. The difference here is that Joe knows that he is repeating the same things and he's able to tell you what those things are, which means it's thoughtful and he can prepare because he can make subtle changes. And I like that. It also helps you to maintain your integrity though, because there are those moments where those of us who have maybe a little bit more sales edge want to just sell, right? And if you want to just sell, sometimes you say something because it gets to yes. And when you do that in violation of your integrity, and by the way, I have done it. So I just want to be like, here's my integrity. I've done it, but I've done it in moments when I was unscripted and I've regretted it every single time. And so the challenge in that is that when you're unscripted, that's more likely to come out. If you simply maintain a scripted stance, you will be much, much better off. Mike Brooks, who's kind of the king of ISA training, he won't let he works with Fortune 500 companies. He won't let a single salesperson out of the training room until they know 100% of the scripts for the company. Cold. I mean, cold, like their mother's phone number cold, right? Like nobody knows phone numbers anymore, but you know, whatever you know, cold, your own phone number, hopefully. So it's pretty cool, man. I love this.
You know, to what you just said, as far as like your scripting, where do you start and stuff like that. So the other day we were on a call, and on that call, I happened to say commissions haven't changed, only the advertisings of commissions have changed. I wrote it down on a post. So when I said it at that time, I went, oh, wow, I like that. So I wrote it down on a Post-it note. So it's right here. I said it during this call only because of the fact that I wrote it down. And now that's building that in. So when I was talking to that guy the other day, I was just kind of going, I don't know, commissions haven't changed. Just the advertising of commissions have changed. And I'm going to get that more and more ingrained in my head. And I'm going to be building around that, the narrative of what I'm going to be saying to people, because I have it in my head that, no, this is a good thing. It's not a big deal at all. So on the sales competition piece, this is easy. We always think that, again, that, we think everybody else out there is taking all the business and it's too difficult, or should I get out of the business? It seems like there's too many agents or not enough deals, or NAR's going to mess it up, or it's not a good time to be in. And it's all nonsense. Down there at the bottom where it talks about Dan Kennedy says you need to read Rob Report, go to Rodeo Drive, visit the forum shops in Vegas. He talks about basically getting in areas where you can see excess, getting in areas where it'll grow your mind and you'll see what's available in the world, because you can't chase things until you know what's available. Most people don't realize how much money some people are making, although some of them think every real estate agent makes $1 million. But for the most part, for me, when I was in lending, I went to an end of month thing and I was making, good cash. as a subprime rep in Southern Oregon, and I thought I was doing just damn fine. And then I went up to an end of month meeting in Portland, got around the Portland and Seattle reps and saw them, and I thought they were a bunch of freaking movie stars. And I went, son of a bitch, I'm a loser. And it was this exact thing right there. What I did was at that point in time, I went, they do the same thing as me. Now I could have sat back and went, yeah, but I live in Medford and they live in Portland and they live in Seattle. No, I didn't. I looked at them and I went, that is sexy as hell. I want what they have, and I came back here and freaking crushed. And, I just dominated. But I dominated because I knew what was available. And I thought I was doing well before. I've given the example before, everybody's heard it about the 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister, nobody thought that the human body could even run a 4-minute mile. And they literally thought that somebody would die if they broke a 4-minute mile, that the body could not even withstand it. And then after Roger Bannister actually broke the 4-minute mile, a bunch of people went and broke the 4-minute mile. But it was because you had to know that something was even possible. You're like, shit, I had no idea. I was here. Now he did that. Now I'm going to do that. And then people have continued on and on and on. You have to know what is possible. I had an agent recently, sitting there telling me he's been, there's too many agents in his area. It's a solid dude, great agent, might be on the call. I can't see anybody, but going to kill it. Should be a star in that area. But at the same time, had a little bit of defeated mindset. It's like, well, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to, staying busy instead of just going, no, find out how many deals are in your area and just take a bigger market share. There's a reason my LLC is called Total Market Share, because that's the amount I want. I want the total fucking market share. Excuse me. But that's what I came up with back then. It's like, that's how much of the market share I wanted. Sorry, man. That's how much market share I wanted. I wanted all of the market share, the total market share. So just go after it. And I basically did that around the time that I realized how much everybody else was doing. And I realized how much I wanted, how it's available to you. Just increase your market share. You don't need to be more deals. Just take a bigger share.
Hey, Joe, talk about that for a second, because I think for some of our maybe newer producers on here, they may not even be aware of what is market share, how does that work, and how do I even think about that? Because I know when I was newer to the industry, that was a new concept for me, was like this idea of my market share, my individual market share. Would you talk us through that really quickly so that people can put that together? And I'll do it as a screen share, but I'll do it along with you here.
Well, I mean, you can go into the MLS and you can pull the statistics and you can literally see exactly what your percentage of the market share is, or what our company's percentage of the market share is. It's however many deals you're doing in relation to the total pie, the total number of deals that are available. This is how many you're doing. And then you start to look at what other people are doing. And it's like, these guys are doing huge numbers. Well, here's the deal. If I'm doing 40 deals a year, if I sell 40 homes a year, I'm selling 40 homes a year. And if a competitor in town all of a sudden starts doing, if he's doing 60 deals a year, and now this next year he does 80, does that mean I'm going to do 20? Am I going to lose 20 of my deals? No. His 80 are not going to affect my deals, because I'm still going to be working as hard as I am. I don't work hard enough as it is, right? None of you work hard enough as it is. So trust me, you're not hitting if you were hitting your very, very top number and then somebody else was doing extra deals, it might hit you. You're not working hard enough as it is. So there's plenty of room to do more than you're doing right now. Conversely, if I'm doing 40 deals a year and there's the guy doing 80, and if all of a sudden he takes some time off and does 60 next year, am I going to do more deals? No, I'm not going to do any more deals, because even though there's a bigger pie, I'm not working any freaking harder. So I think the thing that where people get mixed up, don't care. Who cares what that guy's doing? Work in your own house. You are the limiting factor in your income. You are the limiting factor in it's your organization, your work ethic, and your confidence. I'm assuming you all have integrity, but still positioning that correctly can help you. But it's your work ethic and your confidence, and then how you're doing things and structuring things that are keeping you from hitting the numbers you want to hit. If you're in real estate at the very beginning, when it says, what's your goal? If your number is under $100,000, you need a slap in the ass. I mean, that's just like, that's like entry level. That's just, we should all be making $100,000 in real estate. And if you're, and that doesn't mean if you're not, all I'm saying is that there's people to help you get there. But that's like our entry level number, is that we should all be making 100. It's the easiest $100,000. It's not easy, but I don't know anything easier to make $100,000 where you don't need to go out and get some, degree or climb the corporate ladder or something else like that. So I'm just trying to say it's very doable. With regard to whether or not it's a good time to be in the business and whether or not there's room for more agents and everything else like that, I always use this football analogy. Today, I actually looked at the numbers, and in the NFL, there are 32 football teams. They each have 53 guys on their roster. These are full football teams. They don't need anybody, right? They finished the last year. Everybody had a full team, and that's 1,696 football players. Yet there's going to be an NFL draft this month. And in that NFL draft, 257 players are going to be drafted. Well, why would we even be drafting guys if we already have full teams? Is there's not even room for them? Oh, no. There's always room for talent. All right. So it's just a question of now who's going to make it? All 257? No. But some of the guys in the 1696 that are currently in the NFL are going to be gone, because it's going to be the people that are putting in the work, doing the things that need to be, taking care of their bodies, studying their craft, learning the plays, doing everything else like that. Those guys are going to still be on rosters at the end of the year. There's going to be some guys that's retained, and there's going to be a bunch of new people come in. And it's the same thing in our business. We lose people every year that unfortunately aren't doing the work that they need to be doing, or even worse yet, I feel bad for the ones that are doing the work, but never got the confidence and the training and everything to get them to the point where they should have been able to stay in the business. We're going to lose a lot of people, and then we're going to get an influx of new talent. And like the individual I was talking about, which is an influx of new talent, and we'll be able to crush it right there in that area. Just sit there and just go, I'm taking mine. I'm taking my percentage of what's available here in this market because I know I can. That makes sense?
It totally does. And Joe, I wrote on the last one there with your point about talent coming in and this kind of clear out. It's called top grading. It happens in so many industries, and the NFL is a great example because it's really brutal and kind of cutthroat. Google used to do this. They used to fire the bottom 10% of all of their producers every single year, just fired. Adios. And then they would hire people who would have been in the top 10% every single time. So every year they chopped off the bottom of the ladder and added to the top of the ladder. Well, by default, they're just going up. And that created exponential gains for them. The thing to understand, though, in real estate is that when big events like what's going on right now happen, sometimes agents go, well, I don't understand it, or I don't know what's going on, and then they leave. And when that happens, their potential market share goes to another agent. If enough of them leave, there's a lot of extra market share to be had. So this is why I keep telling people, I'm like, who cares how it shakes out? Like, honestly, just stay put. There's extra market share coming up for grabs. I promise it's going to be easier to make money if you're still in the industry than if you're not. You're never going to make $1 off commission in real estate if you're not a licensed real estate agent. I promise that. So you got to stay put, wait for things to shake out, and then follow the advice you're getting today from Joe, because this market share advantage is going to play out in your favor, and that is a huge advantage. It's like unspeakably large.
Hey, so I'm just going to finish real quick. Yeah. So if we got a couple minutes here, the things I really want to kind of finish on is that, basically on this personal strategy, create your own momentum. You are the expert. You are the person that people are going to be listening to. I don't care if you've been in this business for 2 weeks. If somebody in your family knows that you're an agent, you are the one responsible for creating your own individual market. Jeffrey Gitomer says, I don't care about the economy. I care about your economy. When you can tell by the way I talk, right? So when I talk to people, if somebody walks up to me and says, hey, Joe, how's the market right now? What do you think I'm going to say? It's freaking great. It's freaking great. It's totally a balanced market right now. I love the market right now because the sellers right now are sitting great because we still have a low inventory, so it's perfect for the sellers. And yet at the same time, the buyers are in a great position because of the fact that the rates have tricked down some, and they're not competing like they were in 2020, 2021 when it was so brutal, and they were competing so hard and they couldn't get their closing costs paid, and there was multiple offers, and they had to make a decision in 13 seconds instead of being able to sleep on it overnight. So I love it with buyers right now. A lot of lenders are doing free refinances down the road. It's the most even market I've seen in I don't know how long. That's what I say right now. And if the market shifts, I'm going to have an answer on why it's great, because it's going to be great. The market's always great for somebody. And then with regard to NAR, same thing. Obviously, it's, NAR, oh, it's outstanding. I mean, the thing I love about it is it's getting everybody totally dialed in. It's getting more communication. It's good. It's kind of it's not just upping the the professionalism in the business. It's revealing the professionalism in the business. Now, I just came up with that right there, right? I just said that. So I'm going to write that down when I get off this call, because I like the way that just sounded. So I like, oh, it's revealing the professionalism of the business. So now when I'm talking to people, I'm basically saying there's always been a ton of professionalism in this business that people didn't really realize was here. And I think as moving forward, this is going to show the value and the professionalism that's always been there from a real estate agent, professional real estate agent representation. So, and again, that's just coming up with these things and writing it down. And then that becomes part of what I say moving forward when somebody talks to me about the NAR settlement. To me, I want everybody to, I'll say it again, in order to be convincing, you have to get convinced. Regardless of whether it's a buyer, a seller, the market, NAR, whatever the case is, write it down and write down why it's good. And why is this good? And why is this good? Get it in here. And then when you're convinced, then you have permission to go out there and be convincing and, go ahead and help everybody. And of course, of all the, quotes on here, most importantly, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So for me personally, that's, I'm not perfect. I'm not Jesus. That's why there's enough bombs. But I do my best. And then in summary, the whole process, saying the right things, getting your confidence up so that you're able to control the client, control the situation, control the process to be able to be a true leader for them and get them to what they're trying to get there, setting proper expectations, and just being a true professional. I'm always here if you need me. Any questions?
I love it, Joe. I have one right off the bat. So I know part of what's coming is getting people to this kind of signature moment. And by the way, I took so many stinking notes today. This was like amazing. I think there's some fear. How do I phrase this? Like, traditionally, here's something that I've seen. Some agents are more comfortable with buyers, or have been traditionally, because they didn't need to get an upfront agreement signed, right? It was the opportunity to basically work with someone without a contract in place. And now this is, I love your verbiage, revealing the professionalism in the industry. As that shifts, what's the process? What's if nothing else, even the mindset shift for people as they now have to go into a signature moment, which feels more like a listing appointment than a buyer appointment, without getting all in their head and vibing themselves out and creating objections on the part of the person who's working with them? How do you ease that burden internally? What is the process? Like, what are you thinking about, I guess, is maybe a better way to ask that.
Yeah, well, fact of the matter is I'm human. So when I very first heard all this coming down, I think I threw up a little bit. I make my living off of buyers. I'm like most agents where, I'm buyer heavy. You got a handful of agents that happen to close more listings than buyers. I'm not one of them. So I do work with buyers. And I went, all right, well, that sucks. What's good about this? How can I get my head around this? And I did realize that quickly that's why I have these like little bullet point things, right? It's like, okay, this, and reveal the professionalism. I'm gonna write that down right this second, because it's that important. I'm seriously writing that down right now. That's more important than this awkward break right here, because I need that moving forward. That's how you come up with the things that you're going to say, and because what I have to do now is it's going to be my value proposition, and that's what come up with it more than ever. We used to just have our bio, I do this many deals, I have a wife and a golden doodle, and I'm super nice, and I'd be a great agent for you. And now we're going to have to dig in a little bit deeper and be explaining, revealing, the value that we have and why that, comes in. Everybody's going to have to be building their value proposition. And when I come up with my value proposition and exactly what I'm saying, like anything else, I'll share my script. I'm going to say, this is what I say in this exact situation. Like even showing that guy the MLS sheet with the 2.5 and saying, see that 2.5, that's not going to be in there on there anymore. The only thing has changed. Commissions haven't gone anywhere. The advertising commissions have. So, and I even thought today, which I have it in my head now, I haven't written it down, but I thought about it, is I've seen on a couple things where it's like the listing agent. I even saw some facetious mortgage broker on a thread saying, well, why would I? Because you say, well, we're going to take concessions now, and you're going to be paying for the buyer agent, but it's going to be in the form of concessions and everything else. He's like, well, why would I want to pay for my opposing party to have professional representation? I would rather them not. Okay, really? Well, I can tell you right now that most of the deals I work on couldn't get to the freaking finish line without me. And that's where I kind of came up with it's going to be revealing the value and the professionalism of the agent to be able to get through. Because I tell you right now, Mr. Seller, you're going back to trying to do the FSBO thing. So if you want to trust this guy to be able to get his deal to the finish line without representation, or your agent, you think you're going to swindle the guy that way, then I think it's some bad news. I mean, because they're not accounting for everything that needs to be done on a real estate transaction. That's why I like throwing out words like Tidewater and words that they don't know. But it is just going to be creating your value proposition. But you have to do it now.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. I was talking with one of my really good friends who's a big capital finance guy out of New York City last night. He just happens to be here, and it was at a little shindig we were at, and he was asking me about the NAR stuff and so forth. And he's like, I think it's ridiculous. That's what he said. It was really interesting. He's like, and by the way, I love that somebody referred to it as their competition. Can you imagine if Amazon viewed all of us as their competition, right? Amazon's the seller, by the way. They're selling a product that they don't own. We're the buyer. We pay, by the way, the commission that's baked into the buying price that we purchase when we purchase goods on Amazon. And he said that exact example to me last night. I was like, oh, that's funny. And so, by the way, steal that, like use it, anybody. But it's just this funny kind of reframing, and this will shake out, guys. This is what's hard about, like, how do I solve this? The question is, how do I solve this patiently? And I think if you can add that to understand that patience is going to be part of this. There's 1.2 million realtors for now, right? Like most of us are working on this, and it's going to shake out. So like if you just take a breath and relax, all of us, here's my commitment. I know Joe's commitment. We just spoke in our leadership meeting yesterday. We were all in there. It was absolutely epic. And everyone's commitment is to solve this problem and bring these solutions to this meeting. So I don't know, keep showing up. It should be fun, right? We're going to give you the best tools, the very best that's available out there. And Joe, I can't thank you enough. Today was absolutely epic. I'm literally getting text messages right now from people saying that call was fire. So I really appreciate you, man. Anything else that you want to close with?
Yeah, I got to work on my technology so I don't turn on my computer and not have a picture. So
it worked out great, man. I love it. We'll cut out all the dumb crap at the beginning. It was perfect. Where I'm like, so no, you're amazing.
And get rid of the toward the end, yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thanks everyone for being here. We really appreciate you guys. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are the community. We're a growth organization inside eXp Realty, and we are here to support agents at the highest level. If you're a guest today, go back to the person who invited you here and have a conversation with them. Just look at the model and understand why it is that so many of the top producers in the United States of America and 24 other countries are all coming to this great company. And it's not because it's an accident. It's not because it's where the party is, although it is. It's because it's amazing, and we want you to see that too. All right, so plug in, be a part of it, and we'll see you guys at the top. Thanks everyone for being here. Talk to you soon. All right, bye guys.